Hello, America. Tonight, we have two people getting free from the bars of imprisonment. Sean Spicer and OJ apparently will be seeing the light of day very soon. I also have an update for you all on little Charlie Gard. The Atlanta Braves scored 5 runs last night, so guess what? You score 50% off your regular menu price order today.
All you have to do is stay a minute, just take your time. The clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is wait a second. Your hands on mine. The clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is stay.
The center for everything that is political and American. You're listening to The Garrison Douglas Show.
Alright, America, we begin with the OJ case right here and right now. The juice is going loose after almost 9 years behind bars. Can you guys believe this? I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I could not believe when I was watching the hearing, first of all, that OJ Simpson had the possibility of going free. But he is going free. That is what is happening with OJ Simpson. During the hearing, everyone in my office was surrounding the television screen. We had Fox News on one TV screen, and we had CNN on another TV, and then we had MSNBC on someone's laptop, all trying to get the different perspectives, almost surround sound. I called it the OJ Verdict 2.0. For me, at least. Might have been more 3.0 because he's been in front of a verdict system 3 times now, but this was like 2.0 for me. Would OJ Simpson get out of prison? Now, OJ was behind bars. He was imprisoned over charges of armed robbery and kidnapping. This surrounds the Las Vegas incident in which he tried to steal what was called sports memorabilia that had belonged to him originally. It was his sports memorabilia. And incident gone bad between his friend and himself and the other individuals, his private security who was with him, and guns were pulled, and OJ was behind bars for the next 9 years. Now, I asked whether or not, I wanted to see your guys' opinion on whether or not you would support the decision of OJ getting off early, getting out of jail early. Now, 20% of you did not support the decision, but the remaining 80% of you either had no opinion or were in support. I find it quite interesting. Because this entire case surrounding OJ, it had me torn. It had me torn on that. In my opinion, I believe the sentencing behind this robbery case was a violation of O.J. Simpson's civil liberties. I believe, and I think this is a completely rational thought here. I think most people believe this is what happened. And I think either you're fine with it or you're not fine with it. But I think most people can agree that this is what happened. We couldn't get him on the murder charges back in 95. We couldn't do it. But now here he stands again. O.J. Simpson. He's in our hands. His life is in our hands. We are not going to let him go this time. We are going to get him back for what happened in 95. That's essentially what happened. He was not sentenced based on the crime he had committed, but rather based on the crimes he was actually acquitted of back in 95. Now, the reason I'm torn over this situation is because this is a man who does deserve to be behind bars for the rest of his life. He's not remorseful. He's still the same arrogant and lying OJ he's been since he was a kid. He's a guy who knows how to play the system and wins nearly every time. Ultimately, he always wins. Ultimately, you cannot get O.J. Simpson. Sure, you can say we got him this time with the 9 years. That was a setback. Because he knew he was getting out. In the grand scheme of things, a man who should have been in prison for the rest of his life got 9 years for something completely unrelated. Do you really think you won? Does anyone really think that OJ has ever lost? And I'm sitting here because I watched this entire hearing, and OJ Simpson just could not help himself. He couldn't do it. He stood firm in making excuses for himself while saying, I'm not making excuses for myself. He lied multiple times. You know, I've lived a relatively conflict-free life. All the while forgetting the fact that we have multiple police callings of domestic abuse back when he was married to Nicole Brown. We have the pictures of abuse. But he's lived a conflict-free life. Okay. Conflict-free, all right. Folks, I'm torn. Because like I said, he deserves to be behind bars. But our legal system has said that he can go free. Our legal system has declared him criminally innocent on the matter, which means, legally speaking, we should not ever be pointing towards what happened in 95. Morally, and in the court of public opinion, yes, we know he did it. Which is why we can say that we believe he deserves to be behind bars for the rest of his life. But legally, we have to disregard it. We can't even remember it's there. He was never convicted criminally. He has no prior convictions. And then when you take into account that everyone else in the robbery who was involved, all the other actors, got slaps on the wrist, probation. But he got 33 years with a minimum of 9 years for parole. You have to consider that our legal system uses prisons as a way to settle scores. Which isn't how it's supposed to work. It's not supposed to settle scores. It's supposed to handle one case at a time. If you were declared innocent in one case, it should have no effect on what happens in the next case. It's not relevant. One case at a time. So while this is happening to OJ, and while we could say that he deserves it, what about the people who are getting falsely accused, actually, of crimes? What about those people who are getting falsely accused of a crime? They fight with every ounce of their being to be declared innocent, and they win. But the courts, the DA, everyone says, oh no, he was guilty. He was guilty. And so the next time you get in trouble, they use it against you. They're trying to get back at you for winning, for declaring your innocence. What happens to that guy? That's what happens. OJ is a very public thing and public case, and we know that he deserves it. morally speaking, he deserves it. No one's crying a tear over OJ. No one's booing over OJ. But it does speak to a larger problem. And we should be somewhat concerned over what happened. I don't know. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the matter. Maybe you can message me on here. Comment on the Facebook page. Post your thoughts. He goes free on October 1st at the earliest, so we have some time to process what the heck is happening. Thank God. But another individual who's going free. Free, I tell you. Is White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, who resigned this afternoon after the announcement of the brand new White House Communications Director, Anthony Scaramucci. When I saw this, folks, when I saw this headline pop across my screen, I could not believe it. Apparently, the hiring of Anthony Scaramucci was reportedly, this was going on, this battle for this hire, or controversy with the hire, had been going on for about a month now, internally. And apparently the hire was based off of friendship and not really qualifications, which is why Reince Priebus, the White House Chief of Staff, Steve Bannon, and Sean Spicer were all firmly against it. They were all firmly against it from the get-go. But the president gets his picks. Whoever he says he wants, he gets. Well, that's a lie. He doesn't get everybody he wants. But relatively, the president asks you to serve, that person's going to serve. So he got his pick. Priebus, Bannon, and Spicer lost. Spicer had enough. What's being put out there is that Spicer believed that because Scaramucci wasn't qualified for the role, that Spicer would ultimately still have to do both roles, communications and press secretary, for less pay, which is why he left. That's what they're saying. I don't buy that one bit. Sean's wanted out since day one, and this was the biggest, most beautiful, pristine window for him to jump ship. He's wanted out. So far, as press secretary, Donald Trump has called the man fat, unintelligent, not really a fighter. He just faces criticism time and time again. He doesn't have support from his own president, from the man who he's serving. He doesn't have the support and trust of him. And the American people don't like him. He's getting ridiculed on SNL every day. Well, not every day, but every Saturday. So he's getting ridiculed by them. The press doesn't like him anymore. They used to love him. If you listen to any reporter's account, Jake Tapper, Chris Cuomo, the New York people at the New York, when you listen to them, when you hear what they say, you'll hear them say this all the time. I liked Sean. I don't know what happened. The Sean that's up there at that podium is not the Sean that I've known for the past 2 decades. That's not the Sean I know. But it changed him. And he's become a person that no one likes. Then on top of he's getting called fat in the news by his own president? I'm surprised he didn't leave earlier. And on top of it, he knows it's a sinking ship. He knows I want to be a fly on the wall for what's going on there, but he knows what's happening in that White House, and he knows it's a sinking ship. He's been in the White House before. He served under George W. Bush. He knows how they're supposed to operate, and he knows it's not operating the way it's supposed to right now. So he wants out. No one wants to be associated, unless you're Roger freaking Stone, no one wants to be associated with a sinking presidency. No one wants their name associated in a negative way with colluding with the Russian government for an election. No one wants that. Isn't it Roger Stone and Nixon getting excited the fact that Congress wants you to testify? And you're seeing it as the best way to get the support of the President of the United States to get... What? No! No one in their rational right mind wants their name associated with that. So he's gone. And guess what? This is a major establishment-sized chunk of a glacier following up the Trump administration. There was only two people from the establishment wing of the Republican Party who walked into that administration. That was Reince Priebus, who is the chief of staff, and Sean Spicer. And, folks, I'm going to put it out there. Reince Priebus is going to go eventually. Either he's going to quit or he's going to get fired. But he's on his way out. He's not going to be there for the entire time. Here's the reason why. Scaramucci is more qualified for the position of chief of staff, which is Reince Priebus' position. He's more qualified for that position than he is communications, which eventually is going to lead to a slow and painful pushing out of Priebus. Given on top of the fact that Priebus also won't want to be associated with the crap that's going on in the White House. He's going to want out too. So all this surrounding Priebus is going to have him boxed in. And here's the reason why. Reince and Sean were a package deal from the establishment wing of the party. They gave the White House credibility. When you're bringing people in like Steve Bannon, when you're bringing in your son and son-in-law and daughter to handle massive areas of domestic and foreign policy. When you're doing all of that, America and Congress had to sit there and say, I don't think, no, I don't think that's going to work. So you have to have two people from Washington, who know Washington, who are Washington, to join that administration, to give it credibility. Reince Priebus and Sean Spicer were heads at the Republican National Committee. Reince was the chairman of the RNC. Sean was the director of communications there. He was the chief spokesman, director of communications. He was from the Bush White House. If those two people are conservative politics, and they have a life beyond the Trump administration. I don't know what's going to happen next, though, when it comes to Sean. What's his next move? Here's what I do believe is going to happen. The president needs to keep his mouth shut when it comes to Sean. Because Sean, I believe, is like a battered man right now. Look at him. Look at a picture of him now compared to when he was just working at the RNC before. He is a tired, beaten, and broken man right now. And the only thing that's keeping him from talking right now is his respect for the office the office of the presidency. But if Trump pushes him too far, he will be the first person to accept a phone call from the New York Times and Fox News and MSNBC and CNN. He'll be the first person to accept a call and say, hey, I'm ready. And boy, when that happens, as Sarah Palin would say, heads are spinning. That's what's going to happen. So the president needs to think carefully about how he's going to treat Sean's exit. You better not start criticizing Sean in the press. No need to kick a broken mule when it's down, just move on. But what sort of realistic expectation is that of the President of the United States? Can't tell him what to do. But the one thing to look for in all of this right now is Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She is the woman in Washington. She is the woman to be watching now. She's been promoted from deputy to now the head. She's the chief. She's the White House press secretary now, the new one. And we can just look back and know that she will lie to our faces without even blinking an eye. This is where Sean had trouble. He had no ability to maintain a poker face. When he fed us BS from that podium, from the White House podium, you could see in his own body language that he could not believe what he was saying. He couldn't believe it. That was one of the reasons why he was so criticized by the president. Because you couldn't believe Sean Spicer. There was nothing about him. Even if the words made sense, there was something off. There was something off about the way his demeanor. There's nothing you could point to. It was the way he carried himself. It was the way that he essentially walked into the room. It's the way that he would blink. Just his very essence was off. But Sarah Huckabee Sanders does not have that problem. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, well, she's the queen liar. She will sit there with a straight face. No laughing, no crying, no wincing, no nothing. And given the fact that now these briefings are more likely going to be off camera more often, well, there is no doubt that she's going to have a way better job at lying to the American people. I can't foresee how she can't do it. She's great at it. She's perfect at it. She's a perfect fighter for the president because she is willing to say and do anything. She's not really a noticeable person. She's not a notable person in the White House in regards to, fame. She wasn't really worth bringing an outside celebrity for on SNL. She's pretty much your run-of-the-mill White House press secretary. Nothing too special. Again, I'm talking about as a press secretary. I'm not talking about as a person. So don't. I don't want to receive hate mail, guys, for something stupid like that. But she's someone to watch because she's a sneaky person. People who express no emotion when BS is being spewed from their mouth, they're not people who tend to operate cleanly. They're not traditionally your most trustworthy individual, and they're definitely not someone who you can expect to work with. She is one of those people. That's what we know. Now, I'm only going to provide an update on this whole Russia situation because it's been about a week since I last talked about it. But I think I said this last week. I prefer to talk about the things that are actually affecting individual lives. But, I'm going to emphasize this, but this is an important story nonetheless. There's a lot of stuff that is happening when it comes to Russia. It's last time we spoke, Don Jr. has stupidly released the emails that officially proved a willingness to collude with Russians, with the Russian government in the 2016 election. 5 more people we had learned were in the room at that June 6th meeting that he said there was only 4 people at. So, we know that. That's where we left things. But where are we today? Huh? Where are we today? According to the Washington Post and New York Times, the Trump legal team is exploring pardoning powers the president can utilize to pardon either himself, his top advisors, or his family members, if the moment called for. This is not an admission of guilt, per se. But you don't look at these things for no reason. I know people are saying, oh, he's just curious about the pardoning powers. If I've done nothing criminal before, I'm not going to be looking up how to keep myself out of jail. How to pardon myself. I'm not going to look that up because there's no reason to look it up. I don't need it. I don't need that sort of information. Now, if someone came up and told me, he said, hey, Harrison, did you know you can pardon yourself by blah, 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 blah? I'd be like, oh, interesting, cool. Didn't know that, but thank you. But I wasn't seeking that information because I didn't care. It wasn't something on my mind. For some reason, this is on his mind. We have to acknowledge that. It was on his mind. You don't look up cures for a disease that you don't have, or that someone you know doesn't have. I'm not randomly looking up cures for glioblastoma. I'm not looking for cures on, I don't know, bipolar disorder or whatever. I don't know. But I'm not looking up cures for diseases I don't have, or that I don't know someone has, or that it wasn't presented to me. There is nothing that the news has prompted that would make Trump believe that he, just for giggles, should look up how to pardon himself and his family members and his top advisors. But this news came right about the same time as Robert Mueller announcing that he is going to be investigating and looking into the Trump family finances. Is there any connection? Do I have to say any more? I don't think so. But I am. Because the Trump legal team is also looking for ways to undercut the Mueller investigation and ultimately have him removed from office now that he's looking into the Trump family finances. Something is going on there. You were looking for a get-out-of-jail-free card at the same time as a special prosecutor investigating your finances. And then you're also looking for a way to undercut the man who's investigating your finances and have him removed from office when he's looking into your family's finances. There's got to be something there. There's got to be a giant goose egg, a golden egg of some sort, because the Trump team legal team has essentially gone berserk right now. I mean, can you think of any other reason? Any of you? Can you think of any other reason why you would look to get yourself out of jail, get yourself a get out of jail free card, and undercut the man who's investigating? All of which came out at the same exact time as him saying he's looking into your finances. Is there any other reason? I would like to know. Let me know. Tell me. I want to know if there's any other reason. I can't foresee any other reason. This isn't like he's just messing around with the presidency. Like, just for giggles, what's the procedure if I had to, set off a nuclear warhead? What's the procedure for that? Just curious. This is not talking about how to turn on the heat in the hot tub in the residence of the White House. This isn't trying to figure out how do I turn the movies on in the White House theater room. This is about pardoning. This is about trying to remove the man who's investigating, all because of the fact that now he's investigating your finances. I can't foresee how this is not related. Now, we had some breaking news earlier today, in that U.S. intelligence had intercepted conversations that showed Jeff Sessions had spoken with the Russian ambassador about the Trump campaign. You guys remember what I said last week? I think it was last Monday. If you've got nothing to hide, put it all out there. Put it all out there. Enough with the drip, drip, drip. Because it's looking bad. And then also in the process, stop doing stupid things. Like Trump had an additional undisclosed 1-hour meeting with Putin at the G20. We are looking at this. The press, who you call fake news, is looking at this. Why are you giving them any more ammunition? If there is literally nothing to hide, at the very least, be on your P's and Q's. Do things by the book. Don't have an undisclosed 1-hour meeting with Putin and his Russian translator without a U.S. translator there. Violates national security protocols. So whether or not it has anything to do with the whole Russian collusion crap, you're violating our national security protocols. Which is a problem. Stop it. Just stop. There is nothing more the media can do unless you give them things to do, which is what you're doing right now. This is what the Trump administration is doing right now. Now, I know, folks, this is all seeming Like a little too much. But let's be clear here, all right? There is nothing more that can be done right now. All of this is just more things to investigate. And Robert Mueller is going to investigate all of it. All of this is smoke. Everything we're seeing right now in the news is merely smoke. There is no fire yet. With this much smoke, there more than likely is a fire, but we haven't found it yet. So yes, we might be choking on smoke right now, but in order to stop the smoke, we have to stop the fire. And in order to stop the fire, we need to find the fire. We have not gotten there yet. There can be no impeachment. Just like they did for Bill Clinton. They will wait until they receive the full report from the special prosecutor. That's what the GOP will do. And the Democrats should do the same. For us, this is going to feel like stalling. But this is how our government has always operated. It's how it should operate. When talking about removing the President of the United States of America, which you're essentially saying removing the leader of the free world from office, we should not be able to remove him without a trial. We should not base our decision making on what CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, CBS, ABC says. Or what talk radio saying one night. That's not how this works. The only reason why we didn't have a report for Nixon in the Watergate scandal was because he got the Attorney General to fire the special prosecutor, which happened during the Friday Night Massacre. That is what prompted a crap ton of other problems. But we feel like they're stalling on this because we're sitting in the 24-hour cable news bubble, where every single day all we hear is Russia, Russia, Russia. News is not meant to be broadcasted 24 hours a day. News is in the moment, breaking, and then over. How can a story be breaking news for 18 hours? It can't. It can't. It literally goes against the very concept of breaking news. But that's where we are. Ultimately, everything is happening just as it should in a way. Politically speaking, Republicans should be firmer on this matter. There's no doubt. But they won't, because it's always and always has been the job of the president's party to stand by the president until there is no more room for spin. It happened for Nixon. It happened for Clinton. And it will happen and continue to happen for Donald Trump. Because they have bigger fishes to fry. Like the GOP budget proposal. They released it. It was authored by Budget Committee Chairman Diane Black from Tennessee. And it plans to turn this year's nearly $600 billion projected deficit into a $9 billion surplus by 2027. The budget includes the total of about $5.4 trillion in cuts over the next 10 years. Additionally, the proposed budget calls for $79 billion in discretionary funding for 2018 and $70.7 billion in advanced appropriation funding for the Department of Veteran Affairs, so the VA. The plan would also cut nearly $500 billion from Medicare. There really is no more money to cut from the non-defense discretionary spending, to be honest. But we're still doing it. Tax cuts are necessary for all Americans. But merely transferring money from one end of the budget to the other is not being fiscally responsible. Because we're cutting the budget, these social programs are already at bare bones, and we're increasing base defense discretionary spending to $621.5 billion for the fiscal 2018 year. With an additional $75 billion to fight the global war on terrorism. In other words, we just gave $75 billion. I'm not even going to call this military spending anymore. This is not even defense spending anymore. This is called defense contracting spending. All this is a redistribution of wealth. That's all this is. I said it before. Redistribution of wealth is right now going on in the Republican Party, except it's going in the opposite way. It's the reverse distribution of wealth. From the poor and middle class into the hands of the top 1%. Sorry, top 0.01%. The top 0.05%. That's what this is. Because if we truly cared about the American people and the budget, we would be engaging in reforming our social programs. Program reforms can save us billions in funding and save social programs altogether. But that's not where we are. It's 10 times easier to say, let's just cut the budget. Let's just cut it. Cut it across the board. 10 times easier to do that and then say, we're going to just increase funding for the military. You don't know where that money's going. You don't know where it's going. They just say they're going to put it there, and all you believe is, it's going to our troops. Wrong. There's still going to be millions of veterans who are struggling. There's still going to be soldiers in poverty. And there's still going to be homeless veterans. All the money that they're putting is not going to those people. It's going towards Lockhart and our defense contractors. That's where it's going. This is going to be a bill Republicans will be fighting to pass. It will not be easy. Especially with everything going on with Russia. Because Trump will admit there's a cloud over the presidency, and there's no way that they can pass this. Easily, at least, I should say. Charlie Gardner's not doing well, folks. It's looking like they're going to pull the plug on him. This is just a really, really sad situation. Hospital lawyer doesn't believe the brain scans look well, and is bringing his recommendation to the courts to terminate life. So, just keep this family in your prayers. As well as John McCain. There's been a massive pouring out in support for John. All the former presidents, virtually everyone in Washington, is wishing him well. He has brain cancer. There's a projected 14.6 months of survival at this stage. It's what Ted Kennedy died from, and Vice President Biden's son died from. So, just keep both these individuals in your prayers. I'll see you all back here on Monday. Have a safe weekend.
All you have to do is stay.